It's almost impressive how bad this is. Even though months have passed since Election Day, Ben Stiller doesn't seem to be completely convinced that Donald Trump is our president. In a recent interview, he went on different tangents explaining why we're all in danger, downplaying people's push against woke culture, and acting baffled that Americans are tired of Hollywood's constant preaching. Today, we're breaking down everything he said, exposing the blatant lies, and proving how out of touch he really is. As always, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos just like this.
I think everybody's going to have their own personal reaction, and it's impossible not to be aware of the fact that people feel this, that, oh, wow, there can be retribution from the government if you say something wrong. And that's really scary. So just to even be thinking that way is, but, of course, I'm aware of it. I think everybody's aware of it. And, certain people are just naturally more outspoken and always have been. And I've sort of had my own path with it. But right now, I think it's definitely a thing that people feel. And in a way, for me, it makes me think about it even more about, well, what do I really want to say and how do I really feel about something?
Yes, the classic left-wing fantasy of Trump being a ruthless authoritarian, silencing critics and throwing political opponents in jail. They've been pushing this narrative for years, despite there being zero evidence to back it up. We watched Jimmy Kimmel tear up over it, and now Ben Stiller is having his moment. Even his cat couldn't believe what he was saying and decided to just yeet off the room. And sad part is some people actually buy into this paranoia and act like someone is going to come after them. But the reality is the ones truly facing consequences for speaking their minds were conservatives, especially in Hollywood up to this point. Actors who voice right-leaning opinions mysteriously found themselves losing roles, getting blacklisted, or being completely shamed for their thoughts. Turns out this so-called threat wasn't coming from Trump, it was coming from the very people who are claiming to be the victims.
For me, it's less about the fact that he won by a majority and that many, many, many people are, willing to go down that road. And what is that? So that's actually something that it's always, I think, been about. And that divide is something that I think, you have to sort of wrestle with and acknowledge and figure out and look at your own point of view in that too, and your own prejudice towards, people who don't have the same point of view as you. But I also feel like there's a reality to to where we are, and we have to figure out how to go forward and be productive and call out, when the line is being crossed.
Hollywood elites don't seem to wrap their heads around the fact that people were fed up with the terrible situation Biden's presidency created. Inflation, rising crime, and economic struggles have made life harder for regular folks. Rob Schneider nailed it when he pointed out how out of touch they are, saying, quote, if avocados went up to $5,000, they would just have $5,000 guacamole. That pretty much sums it up. These people live in a bubble where policies don't affect them the way they do for the rest of us. They whine about climate change while flying private jets, and they push for higher taxes, knowing they have accountants who will find them every loophole. The issue of people getting fed up with woke culture also came during the interview, and Ben doesn't seem to think much of it.
But for other people, it was more about feeling like that the culture was going away from them, that movies were, all of this woke lash, everything. We have a Black Little Mermaid now or whatever, or the comedians can't do the jokes that they used to do anymore. And we need to, and that there's been overreach on that side on the left, and that we need to, there needs to be a boomerang back.
I think the bottom line with that is you just have to go out and do it. And you have to go do what you think is funny, do what you think is creative, make what you want to make. And, there are realities to what gets made these days that, it's harder. I don't know if it's necessarily related to that as much as to just, economics in terms of the box office and just sort of boring things like that. Well, a big, broad comedy has not really worked at the box office for a long time. That's probably until that happens that, then that will open up the floodgates more. But, to politicize it is tough because everybody has a different point of view on it. And a lot of it is legitimate. But there's no one person saying oh, you can do this or you can't do that.
Okay, I'm going to act naive and believe every word he said here, but can he explain why Mel Gibson's Sound of Freedom was turned down by many distributors? I saw it myself. It was a beautiful film. It exposed child trafficking, and it should have been an obvious green light, but instead they tried to bury it. Drop a like if you think there's no mystery here, and this was a deliberate move. Hollywood's gatekeepers decide what gets made and what disappears before it even has a chance. Guess what? It's always political. They have no problem pushing movies packed with leftist messaging, and nobody wants to watch them. But the moment there's even a right-leaning theme, things get shut down quickly. That's actually why I was surprised that Matt Walsh got his movie Am I Racist into theaters. Actually a very funny one. The real reason is simple: they don't like what the movies represent. Tim Miller, being the ever-successful PR person, tried to ask Ben what could the Dems do better connecting with the young generations, to which he replied with this.
I was wondering, like, you know, I guess I've done Dem fundraisers, so I haven't talked to Dems at some level. Like, I do wonder, like, a lot of times they rely on Hollywood a little too much for various things, but I do wonder if they might be able to learn some lessons from Hollywood on, like, mass marketing to people.
I think what you've been talking about, and I've heard you recently talking about it on the podcast, about just that, you know, the Democrats need to figure out a way to get in touch with the electorate that is, like, really connecting with them, that in a way that the Republicans have, is a huge thing. And I don't know what the answer is to that, but the reality is that, yeah, it seems like that isn't happening right now. I think everybody's still sort of like regrouping from what's happened, but that's concerning to me for sure.
I don't think there's ever a chance they could connect with the younger generations anytime soon. I mean, just a couple months ago, they had the chance to put AOC as the top Democrat on the Oversight Committee. Instead, they chose to go with the 74-year-old Jerry Connolly, a name most people have never even heard of. I mean, just look at their leadership. We have Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, and Bernie Sanders. None of them represent the younger generation's concerns, and that's why so many young people are checking out.
I want to put this bug in your head because I feel like you've got to have some value here. Like, you know, Night at the Museum. You've, like, done mass marketing. There were Republicans buying these shoes, Ben Stiller. Like, you know, you figured that out. Like, there are Republicans going to some of these movies. All right. So, like, there's got to be something there.
Although people get mad at, you know, on X or Twitter or whatever, and will say, "No, I'm not going to watch your movies" and all that. And it's like, all right, I guess fine. I'm not coming at you in any way other than I'm just expressing how I feel, you know, and I hope, you know, the stuff that you make or whatever is, you know, I've never really been super political in my, you know, the movies I've made. Like Night at the Museum isn't a political screed.
Ben is a really funny guy. Just a few months ago during a Kamala fundraiser event, he said, quote, "It's going to be the first woman president, and that's incredibly exciting. She's Indian, she's black, she's everything. You can be more than one thing. It's incredible." It really is. He went on to add, "You know, I'm Jewish and Irish. I wish I was black. Every white Jewish guy wishes he was black." End quote. That wasn't me, YouTube. That was him. But sure, he's not directing anything at us. He's just an innocent man expressing his opinions. If this is their strategy, they should just keep going because it guarantees the right's victories for years to come. But I'd love to know your thoughts here, so let's get the conversation rolling in the comments down below. And if you want your friends to see Ben's absurd takes, please share the video with them. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.